We had our high school sports banquet, and at least 20 to 30 people didn't show up because they were at the premiere of Lilo and Stitch.
Hello, and welcome back to the Voice for You podcast, where we empower the leaders of today and tomorrow. I'm your host, Jeshwant Vana. Today, I am joined by a young leader in our community. She's an advocate for marginalized communities in every aspect, from the people to the earth. She's serving as the founder for Youth for Hope. She has been able to reach over 600 students on the issue of human trafficking, leading for a change. Using this voice for concern, she has been able to intern under Brian Schatz, who is currently serving as in the U.S. Senate. Not only does she serve big figures like senators, but she also serves as a leader, serving as Hawaii's youth president for the American Legion Auxiliary. Her work has definitely not gone unnoticed, with her being named a Coca-Cola Scholar and a HSF Scholar. Fighting for a change in every aspect in her community, she is Miss Tasanee Cogliandro. How are you doing today, Tasanee?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thank you. It's summertime. Sun's out, just chilling at this point. It's that time of year. School can be a headache at times. Trust me. Oh my God.
Sure.
So to begin with, tell me a little bit about yourself, your hobbies, your passion, and who you are as a person.
Well, I'm Tasanee Cogliandro. I live in Maui. I'm from Hawai'i state, and basically I'm a senior in high school. Most of my life has been defined by school lately, as I'm sure you understand, the grind for sure. But I've also had a passion for advocacy and getting involved with different communities and getting involved with my own community. In the future, I want to go into international relations work, so a lot of my focus has been on identifying global issues and seeing how I can create an impact in my own community and then continue to expand that outreach. So that's a big part of what I've structured my high school experience around. So yeah.
Completely fair. Especially with, as a good podcaster, good host, everyone has to do their research, and I definitely can tell that you're very involved with your community in Hawaii and your roots and all that, which I completely applaud you and commend your work. And obviously it hasn't gone unnoticed, as you are a Coca-Cola Scholar, HSF Scholar, and yeah. So let's start off. I don't want to go straight into the hard-hitting questions. Let's start off a little bit slow. If you could describe yourself as any pizza topping, what would it be and why?
Pizza topping? Okay. Just put me on the spot there with that one. I have no idea. Pizza topping. I would say pineapple because it's controversial. And a lot of people really like it and a lot of people really don't. And I have a habit of going straight into controversial topics all the time. So there is that.
So what are your thoughts on pineapple on pizza? Are you a yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
I've had really good experiences with pineapple on pizza. Not sure about other people, but the restaurants I've been to have done it pretty well. So
yeah. I personally, I don't see the hate against pineapple on pizza. Every single time it's pineapple, my parents ask me for two pizza toppings, I need two pizza toppings on my pizza. It's either it's olives and pineapple. I don't know, that's always been my go-to, and if it's just one, it's just, I don't know. I've always had a sweet tooth, and pineapple is the sweetest thing you can get on pizza. So I genuinely don't see the hate for it at all. So as a senior that has graduated, you have committed to college. So what school have you committed to, and what at that college has attracted you to, committing there, and what do you look forward to going to that school?
question. So my college application process was kind of insane. Everyone will probably say who's trying to go for competitive colleges, but I did end up getting into the University of Chicago. I do have that on, the sweatshirt on right now. And I did it through the QuestBridge National College Match process. So there is that, and I can explain more about that later if it comes up. But I chose my college, I chose to rank it because 70% of the reason, can I just be honest, it looks like Hogwarts. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. So I saw it, I'm like, that looks like a castle. It is really cool on the inside, and I love the campus. And so I had, part of my heart was already set on it. And then I did more research and realized, hey, it's one of the top institutions for law and for political science and all the humanities in general. In the sciences, it's got like Nobel Peace Prize scientists. So like, I thought I'd get a pretty well-rounded experience either way, so I was excited to apply, and I got in.
I know that my friends, I didn't, but like two of my friends, they went on like a tour of all the like colleges in like the north, like eastern area, so like Michigan, Purdue. I'm pretty sure they stopped at U Chicago, and U Chicago does have crazy rep. I know that U Chicago did come to my school. The stickers that they gave us itself was like definitely resemblance of like dragons. Those are insane stickers for sure. But can you explain more about QuestBridge, like how that process worked?
Basically, you can start out in your junior year. It's not required, but very much recommended. You apply to the QuestBridge Prep Scholars, and what they do is you go through a whole application process, almost like a pre-college application process. And if you're selected as a scholar, you get opportunities to go on a bunch of summer programs or do college fly-ins or even a few other scholarships that can help buy you technology. This computer that I'm using here, $1,000 scholarship from QuestBridge because I applied to the junior year one. QuestBridge Prep Scholars is a really good opportunity. You also get a much higher chance of getting selected for the National College Match, which is in your senior year. This is the big one. I researched it. I came across it when I was doing other research in like early sophomore year or maybe right after my freshman year. And I was like, okay, I'm going to apply to that because that is a huge opportunity. What they do is it's like the top 52 colleges now, or 55, I forget which one, colleges in the nation. So Harvard just joined this year as well as a few other schools. And you rank your top 15, up to 15, you can rank fewer than that. If you get into the finalist round, you have to apply directly to those colleges. So it's like a 2-week turnaround. You are notified October 16th. And then after that, it's like you have to cram out essays, like up to 5 to 6 essays per college for the amount of colleges you ranked by November 1st. If you get matched to a college, which means that it goes in ranking. So if you ranked, say, Yale, UPenn, Princeton, right? And Yale defers you, but UPenn accepts you, but Princeton also accepts you. You ranked UPenn first, so they'd match you to UPenn. You wouldn't know if you got into Princeton, if that makes sense. So you get ranked, right? And then you get matched, and if you match, you go to that college for a 4-year scholarship. So it's pretty insane. It's a chance of a lifetime, but it's definitely stressful. And I ended up ranking 9 colleges. U Chicago was my 4th choice, and I got matched. So it's a pretty good experience.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't complain. U Chicago is still a crazy school. Whenever I do hear, like, I've heard QuestBridge like multiple times. Like, I scroll on TikTok, like, I got matched with this school. Like, that's the only thing. I've never like actually like did research on QuestBridge. I've just seen like I'm going on full ride because of QuestBridge. So, I mean, I'm a rising senior, so that's probably something I will have to look into because
Definitely.
I was looking at that, and it was at the beginning of like junior year. So, this is definitely the time because y'all have gone through all the process already. Y'all are done. Y'all are just colleges. Now it's my class's turn, and I'm scared. I'll be honest. I'm very scared.
No, like honestly, I was in your spot literally it feels like just a second ago, I swear, but so much has happened since then. So don't give up. I was stressed out of my mind second semester junior year. I was like, I'm not gonna make it. There's no way. These colleges are like 3%, 5% acceptance rates. What is going on? There's no way they're gonna pick me. And then, I'd 50% be like, oh, of course I'm gonna get in. What are you talking about? And then the other part of me was constantly like,
Yeah.
You're so arrogant. Out of like all the thousands of applicants, why the heck would they pick you? So definitely it is completely normal. I just went through that process. You just have to like hunker yourself down and commit to doing the work. You have to sprint through that period. Like, I know my parents were like, you need a balance, like a mental health sort of thing. Mental health is important, but you also have to know those few months that will define the next 10 years of your life.
10 years, yeah.
That's
That
you
first
have to
semester,
use that period. You gotta just crank it out, get those college applications in, get the resume in, and then that could set you up debt free for like the next
yeah, for
several
a
years of your
long,
life.
long time. This next semester, that first semester, senior year, you screw up, it does, like you say, it does dictate the rest of your, the rest, at least for the next 4 years. It could probably dictate more than that, but for 4 years, it definitely does dictate.
To
So,
stress you out, just like no,
yeah, no, no, no.
just
Yeah,
work hard for that period of life, and then you're chilling second semester if you
yeah.
do it right.
That's what my parents be saying. It's like work. You work this right now. You work like the next 10 years of your life. 40 years, you can chill. You can do whatever you want afterwards. So obviously, you are, as mentioned in the Coca-Cola Scholar bio, you are the founder for Youth for Hope. So what was your inspiration behind, Youth for Hope, and how did you get the idea and bring it off the ground?
So, just to clarify, Youth for Hope is a national chapter. What I did was I contacted them from Hawaii and wanted to start up something with their organization in Hawaii because they hadn't gotten to that our state yet. So they're only in a few states right now, so I wanted to expand them out, and it's kind of fun being in the middle of the Pacific and you're kind of connected to that
Yeah.
completely different sphere of people. And so what it does, it's peer-to-peer led advocacy and awareness and training on how to recognize and report human trafficking in their communities. I was inspired because I had watched a seminar that survivors from an organization came to our island, and they did a whole seminar on what human trafficking was, what their experiences were as people who had personally gone through it, and then how you can recognize and report in our communities. And it really spurred me because I realized, hey, this issue is dark. Like, it's dark. It's happening in our communities. I hear nobody, at least personally, in Hawaii, you hear not a peep about it. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nada.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. I've been to Texas, I've been to California. There's stuff all over the airport walls of like, hey, if you're being trafficked, call this number. Nothing
Yeah.
like that in Hawaii. It's crazy. So I was thinking, hey, there's trafficking in our communities. The numbers are saying it, but people aren't talking about it. What's going on? I'm a high school student. Where does trafficking start usually? Like 13 to 17 years old, high schoolers. So I'm like, hey, what if I could educate my peers, educate my staff at my school, and maybe even expand a little bit outside of that to try and get them to understand what trafficking is, how to look for it in our communities, and how to protect ourselves, how to protect others. And that could just start to make a little impact every day with more people knowing about it. So I started from the bottom up, right? I contacted a few mentors, I trained myself, I trained a few people around me, I started doing larger presentations to other classes at my high school, I brought in survivors who did assemblies and trainings for my staff and students at my school. I got connected with Senator Brian Schatz, who I interned for through April, so we just ended the internship. And I got to present policy actions to him and work with him to figure out what steps we can take in Hawaii State overall to start countering this human trafficking issue. Because how we experience trafficking locally is different than how the nation and the world experiences trafficking. So how can we better tailor federal resources to combat trafficking in our local communities? And that was my focus for this last year, actually.
Yeah, human trafficking, especially with we've had multiple, Netflix I know has spit out multiple documentaries, multiple just things about human trafficking and just kidnappings and stuff like that. I know I was obviously it doesn't count as human trafficking, but the Jeffrey Dahmer case on just kidnapping in general, and it's usually younger, like you said, 13 to 17, because we're not young enough for them to catch. We're not 7 or 8, but we're old enough to catch their eye, but still young enough to not understand what's going on per se. Once you get into the real world, 23, 24, you start realizing that there's some people you can trust, there's some people you can't trust. But at this age, it's just we're still trying to get onto our own 2 feet and moving on. So definitely. So did you research about this, or did it just somehow Youth for Hope just came to you, just fell in your lap, or?
It was more just never underestimate the importance of networking, by the way. Something I've learned a lot in the last 3 years of my life. Because freshman year, I was just like, what the heck is going on? I feel like that's most people, unless your parents have been telling you since you were in 7th grade or something. Me, I was like, I don't know. But starting sophomore year, I started being like, hey, there's actually people with experience out there who could help me with school and everything else I want to do. And it ended up being that there's a local church organization in my community. And they had recently, and I knew this because I attended the seminar at their church. They were connected with a bunch of human trafficking prevention organizations. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could reach out to them and see if they knew people that could help me with this thing that I had a passion for, because I'd watched that seminar and it's been in my brain wanting to work on that for a while. And so I reached out to them. There was a doctor who goes there. He's a pastor at the church, and he was connected with all these organizations. He's like, yeah, reach out to this person. Gave me their emails, their texts. He called them up, and he's like, hey, this girl's interested in starting a human trafficking prevention awareness campaign at her school. Can you help her out with this? So suddenly I had a flood of emails coming in from a bunch of different organizations like, hey, love to help you with this. You're in Hawaii. That's cool. Like, love to reach out. And so I ended up getting connected with Youth for Hope, and they were like, hey, can you start a chapter in Hawaii? That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes, I'd love to do that. So I had a bunch of trainings with them. I was able to get connected with survivors who I later brought into my school to train staff and students, like I'd said. So it was a really, never underestimate even personal connections that you have. Like, hey, what are your aunties and uncles like? Do they know people? Do they work in specific spheres? Local churches usually are always happy to help you out, or whatever religious centers you go to. And then other like nonprofit organizations that you know of in your area, they could also have connections even if you don't want to work with them personally. Definitely never underestimate reaching out through people to others.
No, definitely. Networking has gotten me far. I mean, if I didn't network, obviously we wouldn't be doing this interview right now. I wouldn't have, you probably did hear from the other Coke scholars, but I was bored the other day. Probably going to be mentioning this in every interview, but I was bored one day and decided to DM all 150 Coca-Cola scholars.
I saw that. I was like, what? Did you look up the website and then just decide to search all our names on Instagram?
Because I know it released like 2 or 3 weeks ago, because like my friends were talking about it. I was planning on doing that with the 2024 Coke scholars, but I just never got around to it. So basically, summer just hit. I had all AP classes this semester, so I had nothing to do. Like, my last AP was like last Friday. I was at home doing nothing, and I already started the podcast with like in mind of empowering the leaders of today and tomorrow. And who better to reach out to than people like the Coke scholars who have done so much. Like, you've interned underneath the senator. That's when I say leader, that's what I mean by leading our future, for sure. But yeah, if I didn't network like that, I didn't network like that.
Really admire. Like, I just want to cut it. Like, I really, really admire the fact that you literally just searched us up and you're like, hey, I want to connect with them. That takes guts, especially with some high schoolers being like, we're still in high school, right? You got that immature first response, like, who is this weirdo texting us? There were definitely a few kids who were like, and then we talked about it a little more, and then we're all like, wait, we were just you last year reaching out to a whole host of random people like, please give me advice, or come on and help me with this project that I'm doing, right? We were all there, and clearly we got help because we're here now. And I'm like, what if we're that person for who we were last year? What if we're the person that helped us last year? That could be freaking, like, that is amazing. I appreciate every single person when I reached out to them that they contacted me and that they helped me, and I just wanted to give back, like that circle. Like, things wouldn't happen without that circle of giving back. So I just I really admire your guts in reaching out and just doing it. And you got a lot of responses, I'm assuming, because there were a few kids who were like, I'm gonna do it on the group chat. So
it was a lot more responses than I thought, and I'm like truly like appreciative for all of y'all. It's absolutely crazy. I'll be honest, like halfway through I DM'd everyone. I was halfway through, like, y'all just like came out of Atlanta like a month ago. Y'all are probably all still pretty connected, so I'm gonna be the talk of the town. It's probably gonna be like something embarrassing, But at that point, I was like, I'm already halfway through. Might as well just, finish the job. And what
This is gonna get you places, by the
yeah,
way.
what if good comes out of it, good comes out of it, bad, then yeah,
Learning
just move
experience.
on. Yeah. So obviously, using the skills that you have earned plus your passion, you have interned under U.S. Senator Brian Schatz. So what was it like? What was the experience, of interning under someone as big as him? And what is your, I don't know if you like worked with him personally, because you did say you did like, meet with him for policy action. What is your bond with Senator Schatz?
So it was, you can tell, especially with the last year, the U.S. senators have been rather busy,
Yes.
and the Washington, D.C., so he was definitely involved with all the things happening, if you look him up. So we did meet with him a few times. I wouldn't say that I interned under him consistently all the time because that would be a lie. We did work with his office a lot, and he did reach out virtually many times, and he knew each of us were interns, and he talked policy action with us as well, gave us advice. So we did meet with him, and that was an amazing opportunity. But most of the year looked like us helping out his office with whatever needed to be done, but also us representing our communities and giving them ideas of what to work with in the future. So we were literally representing Hawaii State, 16 of us who were high school seniors, and we were all presenting different topics that he and his office could go forward and help improve Hawaii and the U.S. nationally. So it was an amazing opportunity, especially if you're passionate about anything, to work with your senator to represent issues that you care about, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And we did several different projects. I am under a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't exactly talk about everything that we did, because they'd probably find a way to get back to me about it.
No, yeah, I completely understand.
No,
NDAs, everything, serious, yeah.
it was a good opportunity. Again, the networking thing, meeting a bunch of student leaders that were all passionate about different topics from all of Hawaii State, who all got into really good colleges with really good scholarships, and we all know each other and are now connected for life. Do not underestimate that either. Don't just look at the leaders of the program, but also the people you're in a program with, because those connections can take you pretty far. I've definitely seen the same people over and over and over again in Hawaii. We're pretty small in Hawaii, but you start to see, because at the Koch Scholars Network, can I just say this, like 70% of the scholars there already knew each other from other programs. It was crazy. I'm in the middle of the Pacific, so I was a little bit further removed from some people. I still recognize people, because I got into the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, right? The same people were there again at Koch Scholars.
Yeah.
The same people who do those international, national competitions, same people who get into this program, you all start connecting. It's really, really interesting, and it's really fun to see happen.
Y'all are the cream of the crop, so you're obviously going to see, if you're the best, you're going to be seeing yourself over and over again, because, I mean, if you're the best, you're the best. Like, don't see it. So, was this, like, internship with, if you can say, Senator, underneath the U.S., the Senate program? Because
it was so, what do you mean by the U.S. Senate program?
Because I know that there is a high school, like, I was researching this. It was, like, there's, like, a summer program that you do over the summer underneath, like, the U.S. Senate, I believe? Is that? It might be a little different.
Senate Page program, maybe, or the USSYP, United States Senate Youth Program, but that's not over the summer. Okay, so that one's different. There are a lot of Koch scholars, so if you got reached out to by Koch scholars too, if they responded to you, there's quite a few of them who did represent their state at the United States Senate Youth Program. Okay. So that was 2 students selected from each state to go to Washington, D.C. Crazy competitive program. I was a finalist, but did not get in. And it is, but I know the guy who did. He was also an intern for Senator Schatz. So you see the thing about connecting with. So basically what they go and do is they meet with a bunch of leaders in Washington, D.C. of the nation. They also get to meet with their senators, so that is different. What I did was intern directly under U.S. Senator Brian Schatz. So it was his office, his position, him as a person and not an overall organization, if that makes sense. So
did you just like cold email him and his team and they just got back to you, or?
Well, they ran the whole program, so they were constantly giving us things to do, really straight to the point, honest people. So one of the main things they were touting the whole program was honest feedback. So if you did something wrong in a project and stuff, it's not like school. They're not going to be like, oh, good job, ish, yeah, moving on. It's all like, no, fix this, fix this, fix this. This isn't acceptable in a professional workplace. Or this is great, excellent, we're moving forward with this. Straight to the point, nothing else. So it's actually, it was a really good experience. I really loved it. It was a little bit scary at first because we'd get on these Zoom calls and be like, you sound condescending when you speak. And I'm like,
no, that's real though. That's real though.
it was, it makes you look at yourself more in the context of how people are viewing you and how you're coming across to people in a professional setting, and it was really interesting.
It's
for sure. I would highly recommend.
What's the word? It's a humbling experience for sure.
Yeah.
Especially with like people in like high positions like that, they will tell you straight to your face, you're being rude, or you sound like this, and like I've had my fair share of that too. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. Yeah, 100%. So obviously you are from Hawaii, and you are an HSF scholar, Hispanic scholar. So how do you believe your two cultures have played into who you are and how they have shaped your cultural values and your just values on life?
I think it'd be incorrect to say that you could be too, like, each thing that you have would disinclude the other, because that's something that's also different parts of your culture can play into each other. So
Well, yes,
I've
100%.
never felt very like that I was distinctly one thing or the other, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like living in Hawaii, definitely we were pretty removed from the rest of the states. So different culture overall. And then I'm also Latino, and we have sort of Latino culture in Hawaii. There's not that big of a
I would
population.
assume it's like heavy on like Polynesian culture,
Yes.
especially.
So there's a lot of Filipinos, there's a lot of Samoans and Tongans and Hawaiians, and
Yeah.
a lot more Japanese people than I'd say Latino people there, Chinese. So it's mostly like a lot of people from the Asia Pacific region for sure. You do get a lot of, if you're from the States, you're from California usually, or from like Oregon or Nevada. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people from Nevada here, but it's kind of it's an interesting culture. There's a lot of blend of people, and all of us. It's so interesting. There's so many different cultures here that in Hawaii, a lot of times you can't just be one or the other. You're always a blend of something.
Yeah.
So nobody really holds it up as like I am this or I am this.
I
It's
am
like
that.
I am
Yeah.
this.
That's the good thing though, because especially like I'm from Tennessee, right, Memphis. So there's a lot of like, it's not like racism to the max, but like, it's a lot more heavier than I would assume that it is in Hawaii, because so many different cultures in one singular town or singular area. So it's like everyone's already accustomed to each other and stuff. But off topic, how is the rave for the new Lilo and Stitch movie where you are? How's that been? Is it heavy?
Last night we had our high school sports banquet, and like at least 20 to 30 people didn't show up because they were at the premiere of the Lilo and Stitch. So I was like, so these kids were getting like MVP award, or they were captains of their sports teams and were supposed to be there but weren't there. So that's the only thing I know. But
I mean, it is. I mean, I assume for at least like the Pacific Islands, it's a very culturally impacted movie. So coming to the big screen, and the team has done a very, very good job marketing
yes,
all of that
for
too,
sure.
for sure. So along with your work with Youth for Hope and your work with Senator, obviously, as I could tell, you are a very, very well speaker, and I would assume that's because you did serve as Hawaii's youth president for the American Legion Auxiliary. So what does your role consist of, and how was your term like?
Okay, so basically I got involved, I went to Hawaii Girls State, if you know about the ALA Girls State programs. From there, I met the director. So the director of Hawaii Girls State is heavily involved with the American Legion Auxiliary, and she's the national chaplain for the organization. And she called me up. So I left Hawaii Girls State, and you know how you have to run for positions and stuff?
Yes.
I'd run for governor and lost. And I met a bunch of, again, the networking, right? So I
Yes.
met a bunch of girls, really talked to a lot of the program leaders, which I think was a good thing to do. So definitely try to find a way to connect with program leaders as well when you're at programs. Because I left there with like 3 internship offers in fields that I wanted to get into, and these are women leaders in those fields. And then I went back home, immediately got a call from this director of Hawaii Girls State and was like, hey, would you like to be our American Legion Auxiliary Junior President for the next year? And I'm like, would love to, yes.
I
Totally
mean,
completely random and
butterfly
unexpected.
effect. Yeah, butterfly effect for sure. One
Butterfly.
place or
Butterfly
another.
effect.
Yeah,
It's,
this.
it was basically what I had to do was represent the organization at different events as a youth member, but also promote civic engagement in the youth. So it was, hey, can we get more Hawaii representation in U.S. government, in U.S. as a nation in the
As a
whole?
nation,
Because,
yes.
we are a U.S. state, but our culture is pretty different, so it's hard
Very,
to
very.
know where we belong in that spectrum sometimes, and we have differing opinions about that for sure. So
Yeah.
promoting patriotism for the United States in the kind of state that I live in can be very controversial. So the way I went about it was, hey, how can you be involved and represent our issues as a culture in the US government, in the US nation as a whole, and how can you be a positive contributor and a good citizen of your country while also upholding the values you hold dear, right? So what I did was I went around educating elementary schoolers. I brought ALA Hawaii Girls State representatives to different community events in Maui to try to get more girls to join Hawaii Girls State and to learn about different positions that they could go into, not just in government, but in a lot of other professional fields. So my job was to promote women going into government and leadership positions and also promote good citizenship to younger students. So that is what my role was in the past year.
Now hearing all of y'all, because I remember, like, at the beginning of the year, they sent something, like, my school sent out something about Boys State. They gave us no information on that, and I thought it was sketchy, so I didn't sign up for it. Now hearing all of y'all and, like, the impact that all of y'all have had, especially with Boys State and Boy Nation, I'm genuinely regretting it. Thankfully, I have a younger brother that can pass all of this on to. So, but
No, I understand where you're coming from. So I go to a tiny charter school on an island. So you know how Hawaii has all the islands, and
yes,
you usually hear about Oahu, right? Because that's the
yes,
that's the capital.
the main.
Honolulu have 2 overall big schools that you tend to hear about: Punahou and Kamehameha, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
these 2 schools are large schools that have a lot of representation, tend to be. I'm in a tiny charter school on an outer island, Maui, so definitely don't have the same kinds of connections as like Honolulu or whatever. We're kind of out there. We're considered rural, and we're tiny, like we're in between public and private, so we're not either. So we kind of get stuck in the middle sometimes. I didn't hear about any of these programs from my school, so I understand where you're coming from. It ends up coming down to you got to engage with other people outside of your school, networking, and bring it back. Because you want to be that person that's like, hey, there's all this and this available to you, go for it, you know?
Yeah.
So what you
It always.
learn, bring it back.
Yeah. It always you always get that sense of feeling afterwards, like once you do, they're like, hey, I was the reason I helped this person get to here, and it always gives that sense of like, you know, peace and like helpfulness. So definitely, definitely. So not only do you have compassion for people and a youth advocate, but you also have a compassion for the earth, volunteering a part of the Blue Planet Foundation's climate crew. So how did you get involved with helping, and what motivated you to join this movement?
So I was a sophomore. We do this class called Sophomore Seminar at my high school, and basically we're like, it's a class dedicated to how can we get involved with the community. So it's already setting it up. My school's pretty good about this with community involvement, and what we did was my teacher kept shooting out random things that we could get involved with. So
Yeah.
me as a sophomore, I went into that school year after ninth grade floundering around, being like, hey, how can I get involved with my community outside of my comfort zone? So I was already coming in with that mentality of like, I want to get involved in things, give me opportunities, I will go for them and see where that takes me. So
Yeah.
I heard about this program called the Maui Climate Crew. And what they do is Blue Planet Foundation takes on youth from different stages in high school and has them join their program, and then they give them tools and stuff, and then they have them complete 3 different climate actions in their community to whatever big or small scale that they can, and then they present about it afterward, and then they give a speech to the mayor of whatever region they're in. And so what I did was I taught a bunch of elementary and middle school students about the carbon footprint, and then I also gave a presentation on environmental sustainability to the Maui Climate County Council. So I had policymakers reviewing the Maui Climate Crew, what Blue Planet Foundation was doing, and what policy actions that they could take in the future to promote more sustainability practices in our community and on our overall state. So it was kind of just a program that was already structured, but I was able to get involved, branch out to things that I hadn't ever done before. Like, I'd never spoken in front of like 544 people before, but I did for that program. I was a sophomore. I was like, I don't know how to do this. What am I doing here? I didn't know what the program was before I got in. I applied and I was like, let's see. I have a passion. I want to take it somewhere. And they're like, okay, now you present to like hundreds of people. And I'm like, well, I've never taken public speaking classes.
Yeah, no, that's scary. No.
So it was definitely stepping out of my comfort zone and tackling large projects like I'd never done before. And that really set me up for not only the rest of my sophomore year, but my junior and senior year. And probably going forward as well.
You know, stepping out of that comfort zone is always a big deal. I'm not professional. I'm an amateur like singer. I perform every now and then. One of my first ever performances was my school's culture day, and there was 200, 300. I performed once before that at like one of my cousins' like Sweet 16, and then my dad's like 50th, I think, birthday party. You know, that was especially because before then I was not comfortable with like, you know, performing, or like I've also never done public speaking either. So, you know, stepping out of that comfort zone, definitely. And now because of that was 2 years ago, I got to perform again this year. Probably gonna perform again next year. And one of my closest friends, because I did a duet with one of my friends. She graduated this past year. Yeah, so you know, me and her became really tight. You know, that's basically my singing partner. You know, whenever I see her, like, what's up, singing partner and stuff. So, you know, multiple different performances did come after that. So, you know, that stepping out of the comfort zone is definitely. I mean, you stepped out of your comfort zone, and you know, I mean, look where it got you now. So,
honestly, I've always been a nerd. I am more comfortable reading Harry Potter on the couch than going out there and talking to a million people, and I learned to do the kind of things that I was passionate about. I needed to talk to people, not just read books. So it just takes that first few steps, seriously.
Yeah. I would say I'm an introvert, but I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert too, you know. I enjoy like going out and meeting people, but you know, I spend most of my time, you know, sitting at home watching movies, you know, like I was actually extroverted. Like if you put me in a situation, like I'm currently serving as my state's FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, state vice president. So,
nice.
You know, that situation like that, you have to be extroverted, but then other situations, you don't have to be extroverted like 24/7. So
yeah,
I
if you need that time to yourself, like take that minute to recharge that social battery too. For sure. I understand where you're coming from. Like, I'm an introvert, clearly, if you hadn't figured it out by my preference of wanting to sit inside and read.
To be honest, your speaking skills, like I would have, if just by your speaking skills, I would have thought you were extrovert. I would be super honest, like.
Natural introvert, extrovert by necessity. So.
That's fair. That is fair. So, not only are you a stellar student and also an activist, but you are also an athlete, participating in track and field, and have won numerous awards for karate. So, what event did you specifically compete in for track?
For track, I did the 100 meter, 2 meter, and 400 meter. It's definitely a sport that I had to push myself in. I'm by all means not a natural runner. Martial arts has defined most of my life. Like I am,
Yes.
I jumped from several different martial arts my whole life, and I've really enjoyed that. Going into cross country and track and field, by the way, in my junior year, was definitely a step outside of my comfort zone. Again, I was like, you know
100%.
what? Let's try it. So I did, and I found the most tight-knit community, I would say, at my school. Immediately got into a huge friend group that, once you're in, you can't leave. It's
You
kind of
can't
like a
leave. Yeah.
cult. Um, you, you start with cross country. They don't let you leave. You have to do track. And then once you do track,
Yeah.
you can't leave. You have to
You
come
have to
back
do
to cross country.
cross country. Yeah.
So,
That was one of my friends. Yeah. She was in my dual enrollment. Yeah, she was in my dual enrollment film class. She did cross country. Then she switched to track. And I think track season's like about finished. So she's switching back to cross country.
yep. And it's
Yeah.
the same people, you'll find. It's the same people.
Yeah.
So it's like the entire team moves to at least for my school, we're tiny. So it's literally the same students who are like, we're the cross country team now. And then a few months later, we're now the track team.
Track team.
And then
Yeah.
we kind of blend it together. We're like the cross country and track team because it's pretty much what it is. So
It's people, so might as well just say cross country track team, something like that.
an amazing coach. She built up this program like for the last 11 years to what it is today, and she one of the people that will most like emotionally and connect with you and just push you. And like I will be the first to say I wasn't the best at the sport. Like I am no star athlete at my high school at least. But I enjoyed it and I got something out of it by pushing myself, and it's good for mental health, and I got a part of a team that was constantly pushing each other, and it was a really good community. So even though you don't think you'll be good at sports, A, you might surprise yourself, and B, you might get something else out of it other than getting medals, because that's not all there is that goes into it, for the record. So
100%. I mean, obviously you are very, very decorated in martial arts. Which martial arts do you like? Which ones do you do?
So I did, for the last 4 years, I've done Taekwondo, but before that I was doing Muay Thai, and then before that I was doing Kung Fu. So definitely a little blend of things. I did Jiu-Jitsu for a while too. I kind of just jumped around, depended on where I was. I've moved around a lot, so depends on where I'm at. But I'm definitely a Taekwondo athlete, and it was really fun to actually get into competitions because I never competed before Taekwondo, and it was an experience getting to go to the West Grand Prix and to Hawai'i State Championships and to Nationals in Fort Lauderdale. It was, even if you just like traveling, I would encourage you to try to get into martial arts competitions because it is so fun. And I competed in various different events, but basically it comes down to either sparring or forms. So it's like I was better at the forms than I was at sparring, but I definitely enjoyed it, and I gave it my all when I was in it, so.
And obviously that conditioning also helped you with like track, because like if you don't do any sport and you just jump into like a random sport, that's gonna be a lot harder. But obviously because of martial arts, you were able to go into track and fields, which really helped. I know one of my friends, it was like when he was like super, like one of my closest friends, when he was super young, he did martial arts. I didn't know this. I learned recently that he was like a state champion when he was like 8 or 9. He like his parents were talking about him like traveling to Arkansas and stuff like that first. So definitely, like just like stuff in general, if you take it to like a traveling level, then it obviously becomes like a experience. Even if
For
you don't,
sure.
even if you're not like the best, still like everything. Like
My coaches like to say 70% mental and 30% the actual physical, because you gotta, you gotta have that mentality that you're gonna push through something, otherwise you're not gonna get anywhere. You can be all the natural athlete you want, but if you don't have that mentality to like push through the pain and set yourself a goal and get to it, it's not really gonna go anywhere. So that was where I landed, like, hey, I need to give this the kind of effort that I give everything else in my life, and I just got to push through. I'm writing these essays for scholarships, and I'm going to get those scholarships, right? Same way, I'm going to keep running until I hit that finish line. Otherwise, it's a failure to stop trying. It's not a
Yeah.
failure if you're coming in behind someone that you didn't
Well,
want to
no.
come in behind.
At least
You
you
know, it's not
finished.
as much a
Yeah.
failure.
Definitely, definitely. What are your thoughts? Also, off topic. What are your thoughts on Cobra Kai? This one, it's my favorite show. Like me and my brother, we definitely grew on that. Sadly, it ended. But if you do watch, if you have seen it, because like obviously you are a martial artist, so it's
Full disclosure, I've seen all the Karate Kid movies. I watched like 2 episodes of Cobra Kai.
that's fair.
My
That's fair. What
my
do you think?
dad was more into it than I was. I watched a few of them and then I got distracted. I don't know what it was,
That's
but I've
fair.
never gone back to it. But would you say it's something I should watch?
Definitely. I mean, I would say like towards the end, it gets a little like sappy and more dramatic. But like the first 2 seasons for sure are really good.
Gotcha.
Obviously, the Karate Kid movies are really, really good. So those are not like I don't think you can compare those for sure. I've seen all of them, including the Jackie Chan and Aiden Smith one too.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So with all these accomplishments, you have been awarded as a Coke Scholar and a Coca-Cola Scholarship. So, what was your experience going to Georgia and like meeting all these new people? Like I was in like yesterday, the other day, I interviewed Agnea. He told me that you get added to a really crazy network, and he just randomly drops Ramaswamy's name out of nowhere.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, how was that experience like?
So on the Vivek Ramaswamy thing, you should have been there. Like I swear, um, all of this, they put up his picture on the screen. They were talking about the network of Coca-Cola Scholars because they do a presentation on it. And Vivek Ramaswamy's face comes on the screen. It's like a tiny little box alongside all the other little boxes of people, like little photos. And
Yeah.
and someone sees it and is like, is that Vivek Ramaswamy? Room goes dead silent. Scholars. We're like, wait, and then so we just gone through an election season, right? So it was a
Yeah.
little bit still contentious because it was just it felt like just the 2024 cycle, and we were just watching him on
Exact
TV,
on TV.
and we're
So I
like,
mean,
wait,
that was a Republican candidate. Like, come
there was
on.
there
That
was
that
definitely there was definitely a diversity of opinions across the board. I'm sure you can imagine.
definitely.
it was it was a really funny thing, and I think the more that it did was it brought home, we're in this room, and there was something that one of the people, so she was the president of the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation, and at the banquet she goes, I would encourage you to network with and make friends with as many people as you can in this room, because you never know who you or someone else will become in this room. Chills down my arms.
I just got chills right now. I'll be so honest. I just got chills. Oh
And
my god.
you have the right mentality, because you texted me and you're like, I want to reach out to these people before they become, those CEOs and those
The
government
CEOs of
officials,
Fortune
whatever.
500s. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, that's so true. You never know. Like, don't underestimate people too. Like, you never know who
Definitely.
the person sitting next to you might become
Might
someday.
become
So
make the
it's
connections early. Who knows? Maybe later in life they become they can help you with something, Especially
it's true.
especially with the Coke Scholars, like all of y'all. I was looking through alumni itself. Crazy alumni names. Who knows? Maybe half of y'all go on to do crazy stuff in the future. Like,
That's the goal. So
yeah,
like, all of us were in that room because we're ambitious, and I'm not afraid to like say that. We're all in there because we have big dreams, big aspirations.
yes,
We want to be the change makers of our generation, and we want to help push other people to become change makers in our generation. And so it was kind of that vibe. There was 150 of us in there, and you could feel it, that we were all on the same wavelength. And it was just it was an experience that I will never forget. Definitely one of the best weekends in my life. And coming from Hawaii, I came into that room and I got a little
yeah.
nervous at first because I'm like, all these people know each other from like Coolidge or whatever else the heck they were in. And I'm like, I had no idea, first of all, that some of these programs existed. And then
Yeah.
second of all, why does everybody know each other? And
That
I'm
would
like,
definitely that would put me on rocks too. I'll be honest. That
and I'm
would
like,
scare me.
and then I realized, oh hey, I remember your face. Hispanic Scholarship Fund, I know you. I've interacted with you over Instagram randomly over a scholarship.
Yeah.
And then there's a few other people. It was fun, and everybody was welcoming because, it didn't matter that maybe we were impacting a different amount of people, or we were interested in different things, or we got into an Ivy League versus a tier 1 versus a tier 2 versus a whatever.
Yeah.
And so we all connected, and we were all like, hey, we made it. So, like, it was on the same level, even though, you got people like freaking Maritza Costa. I don't know if you've seen him on
Yes,
it. He wins
he
every single scholarship. It is ridiculous. I look up scholarships, and his face is I'm like, why are you everywhere?
Yeah, he was one of the few that did reach back out to me. He never scheduled an interview per se, but he did reach back out saying he was interested in interviewing.
Well, just so you know, if you want scholarship advice or program advice, he's the person to talk to because he's involved in all of them.
Do you have any advice for Coca-Cola and like how that process went and how you, for like me personally or like viewers too, like do you know anything? Because personally, I like that's definitely a dream of mine. I was telling the story on a past episode too. My parents, we have a running joke in my house saying that if there is a Coke can lying around the house, like just sitting there, and I see it, it's gonna be gone in the next 10 minutes because I will drink it. Like my parents, they make this dish called biryani. It's an Indian cuisine. So basically, my mom every week she makes it, and with that, Coke is really good to drink with because it's like spicy, just like. So my mom brings out the Coke. I'm like, where was this Coke? I didn't see this Coke at all. He's like, yeah, we hid it from you. We knew that you were gonna drink it. So yeah.
So advice: say that in your interview. But also, so what they do, if you get to the interview stage, they do say, hey, you tip, you should have a Coke product with you on the interview. So like even that, because honestly, the statistics for the Coke Scholarship, I'm gonna be so for real, don't work for anyone. Just putting it out there. Don't work for anyone. So like the first stage really feels like luck of the draw, because you go from 200,000 applicants. 200,000 applicants
200,000.
to so you go down a lot. I forget what it was exactly, but I know there were a few thousand semifinalists, only a few thousand from 200,000, and then if you get into the finalist stage, you're one of 250. They cut you.
They cut down.
Yeah, so it's 150 they select.
Yes.
And for the final thing, so it's one of those things where it's like I prayed. So for the first round,
definitely.
There's thousands of students that like could say they deserve the scholarship in the nation,
100%.
right? And who probably would, that have done an impact. And not getting the scholarship doesn't mean you're not making an impact, doesn't mean that you're any less than anyone who got the Coke Scholarship. But I would say that once you get down to the thousands and the hundreds, they are selecting people on a specific essays, recommendations, interview basis. So that's definitely, you start feeling a little bit more personal right there. But they want to get a good range of people from all across the nation. So, you want to get different states, different backgrounds, different interests represented. So there is that, and it's all on merit too.
100%.
So it was a really good opportunity, and a tip I would have, I think, because you can never say, and I hated this when people told me this, so please do not hate me. It depends on your situation, but basically be authentic to your path. Don't write what you think they want to hear. Write where you're coming from and why you're doing what you're doing and what that means to you, because if you're getting into the Coca-Cola Scholarship means they're looking for people who deeply care about what they're working on. So they're not just looking for resume building, because all of us, if we're honest, all of us have gone through that, have had that mentality with a few things, but maybe write about the things you care about, not the things you just did to put on your resume.
Yes. 100%.
And also, there was a girl who literally wrote about seagulls on her Coke Scholars application, and she's a good friend of mine now. And she got into the Coke Scholars, and she wrote about seagulls. It's a running joke. But She
Yeah,
showed
yeah.
a lot of her personality through that. She's MIT, one of the smartest people I know that I've ever met. And
Maybe if I get her on an interview, then maybe I can bring up
yeah,
Seagulls.
she's funny. If you ask her, if you see that someone's going to MIT, ask them if they wrote about seagulls, and you'll know if it's her. She's funny, but it's definitely like make sure your personality is shining through and your passion. And they are looking for leaders, but not just leaders, people who are committed to working on advancing their own communities, on advancing the nation, on being a part of something outside of themselves. So they're not just looking for academics or star athletes or star whatever. They're looking for those people, but also people who are doing it for a different reason, if that
And
makes
to
sense.
push the boundaries.
Yeah.
Well, this definitely leads into my final question. Obviously, to round out this show, A Voice for You is all about empowering the leaders of today and tomorrow. So, what is some advice that you can leave for our viewers who are wanting to achieve great things like you have and, just want to be more active in their community and, be an example and a leader for tomorrow?
That is hard, and there's so many things I want to talk about. And again, the networking, I'll touch on this briefly because I know I went into it before. Never underestimate networking. Reach out to your peers, to your teachers, to people in your community. They can get you connected with things that you can find interest in or passion in, and then your network expands like this. Especially if you already get into scholarships and programs, right? So I'm assuming, I'm talking to people either just starting out or who have already been in the game, per se. If you've already gone to programs, continue reaching out to those people, continue networking with them. They probably have access to a bunch of other resources that maybe you didn't hear about. And then you can give them help as well. If you build each other up, it really works. Another thing that I would highly recommend is being deeply involved in your school and your community. If you want to make change, start from the ground up, start in your community, expand outward, right? So it's all well and good if you want to feed kids in Africa, which all of us want to do. Maybe start
Definitely.
in your own community first and then
And
see
then
where you can
branch
go
out to
from there.
Africa. Yeah,
Yes. So,
definitely.
not to say I have a few friends who are actually leading nonprofits that are helping kids in Africa, but the people who tend to make a greater impact too are the people who focus on issues that they see personally in their own communities, have a passion about that, and then start building up their own communities, right? If that makes sense.
Yes.
So reaching to where you have, what is it? Your circle of influence. Circle of
Yes.
influence. That's a concept I'm sure people understand. Also, be bold. So adults always love, and I'm experiencing this a little bit myself. People asking for my advice makes me so happy. I'm like, I was literally just asking people, and then now I get to share my experiences with other people, and it feels good. It's that circle of like, hey, people helped me, so I want to help others. Adults in your life, professionals, even older students, if they've experienced things that, maybe you want to tap into, ask them about it. Be bold, send emails, send texts, reach out to all 150 of the next year's Coke Scholars, and you'll
But
get
hopefully,
somewhere.
hopefully, I'm a part of one of those 150.
Hey,
I'm praying
hey,
on that.
hey.
I've been praying
Actually,
on that.
Josh is gonna be, so reach out to Josh. Manifesting that right now. Don't know if
Manifesting,
anybody believes in that, but
manifesting.
whatever. Basically, to be bold, reach out to people, ask for advice, connect, apply. Also, we're talking about things that are competitive and have like really low acceptance rates, right? Nobody's lying about that. 3%, 5%, Coca-Cola Scholarship, 0.00075%.
Yeah,
This
pretty small.
is crazy, right? Sometimes those statistics don't work for anyone. Again, I like to say that because it's not on you. It ends up being. There are thousands, millions of people applying for the same things that you are. So it's like, the main thing that works that I saw is the wide range of students that I've met over the years. The more things they applied to, the more things they got into. So apply to a wide range of things, even if you think you won't get in. I looked at the statistics for Coke Scholarship and I'm like, whatever, that's not happening. I'm here now. So it can work out for you just take those chances, apply to everything you can, push yourself. That period from second semester of junior year through the first semester of your senior year is that push period, that sprint. Get through that and you'll see a lot of opportunities opening for you. So you put that work in, write those essays, write your personal statement in the summer.
Definitely.
Don't write it in August. Bad idea.
That's what I've heard. That's what I have heard.
QuestBridge, if you're applying to QuestBridge, first deadline is September 26th. It feels like you just started school. So have that personal statement ready and start applying to scholarships. Use those scholarships essays and put them into other scholarships essays. Tailor them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie about that. It works. You definitely tailor them. So if you're not feeling like this essay is working for that scholarship, don't be lazy. Rewrite it or rework it or just leave that essay alone and write a different one. So
Definitely.
Don't just copy and paste either. Would not recommend that.
Not a good strategy.
So I will be completely honest, the ones that I copied and pasted directly without reworking it because I did get tired and lazy at some point, happens to everyone, I did not get those scholarships. Maybe I got semi-finalists, but that's about it. It's like, okay, we're done. So the more authentic you are, the more likely you are to get in, if that makes sense. So definitely, and be honest about the kinds of resources you have to on applications. I know I'm going like really long-winded on this, but sometimes, they have your school profiles and stuff for college applications, scholars applications, but sometimes they really don't know all the circumstances. So, for example, my school doesn't do AP. All we have is dual credit classes. My transcript will look fairly less competitive than a lot of other students if they don't know that. If they know the fact that I took all the dual credit classes that I could, right, and that was my AP throughout high school, then, that looks different from the transcript.
Adds more value, yeah. See, mine's actually the complete opposite. My school offers so many APs to the point where I'm going to be ending off high school probably with around 16, 17 AP credits. So, yeah, it's the normal amount's like 12, 11. I'm ending with 17. The rest of my class is also ending with that much too, though. So, you have to take it into the bigger context. But like you also did say, pushing boundaries is definitely something. Pushing boundaries definitely takes you far, even if you don't feel like you're not going to get somewhere. Like, take this, for example. I was like, maybe like 5 or 6 will respond, but, nothing crazy will happen. And, we're here now talking. So pushing boundaries is definitely something.
Definitely, one last thing.
Okay. Yeah.
People will tell you to be a kid and to not worry about it because you're in high school, or you're just a freshman. College applications are, later.
Way over there, all the way.
Don't think like that, first of all.
College starts as soon as freshman year starts.
There's nothing wrong with this, but if you're applying to a state college, a community college, those kind of colleges, or with higher acceptance rates, you can be a little bit more chill, and that's fine. But, you can also be making an impact in your community just as much, or you can be applying to scholarships so that you are going to college without undergraduate debt. So definitely focus on that. I'd say start sophomore year, trying to get scholarships and stuff for sure. If you're applying to a tier 1 or Ivy League university, you start freshman year. I am being completely serious. Do not underestimate because everything builds off on each other. So you might think, hey, college applications start in fall of your senior year. People don't just wake up we're not in Legally Blonde. You don't just wake up one day and apply to Harvard. It doesn't work like that. Unless you've been crazy for some weird reason and happen to get all these accolades all throughout your life because you're just that good. If you're intentionally trying to apply to an Ivy League, start working now so that you can build up your resume. So I realized, I was sophomore year because freshman year I was just like, I'm gonna get straight A's and that's all I'm gonna do. Great.
No, yeah.
We're not in 1953 anymore. Straight A's aren't just gonna cut it.
They're not gonna just do anything.
No.
They don't want to do anything.
So, they want you to be curing cancer. So, I'm joking, sorta. But basically, I was in sophomore year freaking out because I'm like, I'm too late. Okay, you're not too late either. Just again,
Time.
be authentic,
Not
work
as
on
much
what you
time.
can, push
Yeah.
yourself, and prioritize. Prioritize the things that you think are going to make you make it. So the things that you care about, A, and B, for example, if you're in a sport that you like, but that is draining hours of your day emotionally and physically when you feel like you could be doing something else. And
Something else.
sports are great. Maybe have one or two in your life to keep you physically active. And if you're
More
a star
active.
athlete, obviously sports are kind of your
Keep it going.
concentration.
Yes.
But if it is eating hours of your day and you know that you are good at something else and that you have a passion for something else, don't keep doing things because you think it adds to your resume. Focus on the things that you know you can go far in, or give yourself more hours to apply to the 500,000 essays and scholarships that are out there, right? That
Yes.
can build you up for the future. So don't underestimate that either. Yeah,
Definitely. Pushing
that's all.
boundaries, scholarships, all that. At the end of the day, we want to live lives, debt free, like live like that. And who doesn't want to go to a tier one school? Like, uh, and especially for like cheap, that'd be anyone's dream. And
Yep. Tier 1
well,
colleges tend to be the most generous, too, FYI. So don't look at the
yeah,
price tag and think,
yeah,
usually they'll end up being less expensive than a state school.
that's what a lot of people were. That's what, because my dream school is Duke University. So a lot of people, like I say Duke, is like, who's paying for that? You're gonna make your parents pay like 90K. I'm like, I don't know if I want to make them pay 90K, but also I've been a Blue Devil for a very, very long time, so it's definitely something. But
If
pressing board, yeah,
Also, if you get into an Ivy League, don't underestimate, first of all, they have crazy financial aid because
yes,
they're rich. They are so
oh
rich.
yes, those are
Like
Ivy League.
Duke, U Chicago, Harvard, Yale, like all these colleges, they are so rich. They have a lot of generosity to give students. So don't underestimate the kind of financial aid you're going to get, but also don't overestimate it. Apply to all the scholarships that you can.
Oh, you
Also,
can, yeah,
if other scholarships, don't underestimate second semester senior year too. If other scholarships see that you got other scholarships, or you got into this college, right? Say you get an early decision, whatever kind of period that they have. You get in early, you can put that on your scholarship applications, and you're like, oh, this kid's already going to Duke. Let's give him more money to go there. Like he's clearly going to be competitive. Maybe we're investing in a future student leader and a future successful person. Success breeds
yeah,
success, right? So if they see you're having success in other fields, they're going to want to tap into that success, if that makes sense. So,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely, yeah. Well, thank you, Taz, for hopping on an episode. Obviously, it's definitely something to get a random message from a stranger with not, as you can see, the podcast is not as big at the moment because I did start a couple of months ago. But thank you for taking a chance on me, and thank you for hopping on the podcast. And for the viewers, thank you for watching the whole episode. Remember, do follow on Spotify and YouTube, and the whole goal is to empower the leaders of today and tomorrow. So stay tuned for more episodes, especially with the amazing class of 2020 Coke Scholars. And once again, I'm your host, Jeshwant Vana, and thank you for watching.